Hi friends, you're listening to the Happiness Soundtrack. My name is Jana Barrett, but you can call me Jana Banana. I'm a commercial flight attendant who's fascinated by the associations we form with music. And for me, one of those associations got too strong. So for my birthday in 2024, I decided to spend a full year listening only to music I'd never heard before. To find new songs, I started passing around a journal, asking people to write about a song that reminds them of a happy memory. And those songs are what I call the Happiness Soundtrack. I try to ask at least one person a day, and I'll keep going until every page of that journal is full. This is where I share some of the songs, the stories, and the beautiful moments that unfold from that one simple question. If you'd like to get a link to these stories in your inbox every week, along with all the show notes, you can subscribe to emails at happinesssoundtrack.com. There's a link in the show notes. The website also has more details about the project, like monthly playlists of every song in the journal, and a submission page where you can share your song. So check that out when you get a chance. Today we're going to be talking about something a little different from our normal subject matter here on the Happiness Soundtrack. Instead of me sharing a story from the journal or from asking the question, I'm going to go over 14 scientific strategies to improve your happiness. So while none of this is directly related or tied to the Happiness Soundtrack project, this is certainly in the wheelhouse, and I felt that anyone interested in this stuff might also be interested in learning more about happy songs associated with people's memories, and vice versa. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to list these 14 strategies right now, just so you could get a basic understanding of what we're going to talk about, and then I will drill deeper into each one and explain the science behind it, as well as some tips or suggestions for how you can put that to use in your life. So the 14 scientific ways to increase your happiness are: number 1, program happy moments into your day. Number 2, manage your physical and emotional energy. Number 3, recite positive affirmations. Number 4, act like a happy person, such as smiling and singing. Number 5, invest in your relationships. Number 6, do kind things for other people. Number 7, practice deliberate gratitude. Number 8, incorporate meditation and practice mindfulness. Number 9, do work that gives you meaning and delight. Number 10, make fun a priority. Number 11, anticipate and reflect. Number 12, spend time out in nature. Number 13, work with your strengths. And number 14, spend more on experiences than on possessions. Before I dive deeper into these, I should probably talk about how I discovered these methods and also why they're just kind of on my mind right now. If you'd rather just skip directly to the 14 tips, that's fine, no worries. You can just go ahead to about 7.5 minutes into the podcast. Unlike last week's episode, the 5 happiest songs according to science, this is not me reading an article that I found online and then expanding on it and making it relevant to the project. This is all research that I did on my own 5 years ago when I was in the middle of a pretty deep depression. It's summer 2025, so you remember what was happening 5 years ago? It was the height of the pandemic. And I was one of those people who lost my job from COVID. I was working on cruise ships at the time, and the entire industry was shut down. I remember walking into the office on the ship on March 13th, 2020, and my coworkers telling me, "Hey, Jana, don't bother with any of the work that you were going to do because it doesn't matter anymore. We don't have jobs anymore." And we're also about to not have a house anymore because we were all going to get kicked off the ship. That's exactly what happened. And I was living on my own for the first few months, even though it required me to pay some rent. I just kind of thought that retaining that level of independence would be better for my mental health. We also didn't realize how long we were going to be out of those jobs. But, I woke up wondering how much longer my money was going to last, trying to figure out what else I could be doing or should be doing. Nothing else interested me. So I was working on my art. I was drawing every day. By the way, I was also in a toxic long-distance relationship at the time, so that was really draining my mental health. And I started researching, maybe an art series that I could start would be different ways to improve happiness. So I looked up all of these methods on my own and I put them all together. I called it the Pleasant Journeys series. But anyway, So that's how I came across all of these methods. They are all based on neuroscience and psychology, and they're pretty effective. I employed these tactics in my daily life. It took patience, it took diligence, but it did help, and I hope it can help other people as well. One reason it's on my mind right now is the irony that I'm working on this project about happiness and human connection, and yet lately I have found myself feeling pretty sad about a lot of different things and feeling disconnected, mostly from myself. I mean, part of it is because I feel pressure to be happy and connected because I'm doing this project, and I just don't feel those things right now. So I kind of feel disingenuous talking about this stuff. This is also the busiest time of year for my day job, commercial aviation, and I'm doing this side project. So it's really difficult to figure out how to show up for each job on the time and the day that I need to do it while making sure I don't neglect the other job. And in the midst of that, I'm neglecting other facets of my life, like friendships, chores, errands, family. Is difficult. I'm just trying to navigate that, and I'm being real with you because everyone who's ever shared a part of themselves in the Happiness Soundtrack Journal has been vulnerable with me, and you deserve the same. So, we're going to get real here on the Happiness Soundtrack. There's also the fact that 2 episodes were about a romantic endeavor that didn't work out. So that was difficult to revisit. And then, of course, there's the fact that this whole project started because I couldn't stop thinking about a different ex. And every week I have to come on here and admit to that. So it's embarrassing, you know? And it sucks knowing that I'm never going to get away from that part of my life. But I guess the best thing is knowing that I've created this beautiful project from that and to just focus on the good parts. Anyway, I appreciate you listening, and now let's talk about those 14 strategies, shall we? Number 1, program happy moments into your day. This comes from an episode of the Science of Happiness podcast called How to Make Time for Happiness. The main idea is that setting daily blocks of time for small, meaningful experiences, like enjoying a coffee or tea if you don't drink coffee, having a phone call with a loved one, or stepping outside to take in some nature, all of those small experiences will accumulate to uplift your mood and counterbalance negative stress. So it's about being intentional with dedicating time to things that make you happy. Simple enough, but most people probably don't do that because we get busy. Never be too busy for your happiness. That's the takeaway. Second tip, manage your physical and emotional energy. This comes from another article on Inc.com about 10 scientifically proven ways to be incredibly happy. A huge part of that comes from taking care of your body and managing your energy. So here are some ways to do so. There are 3 main ways. First is exercise consistently. Second is get sufficient sleep, both quality and quantity, and do not snooze. And then the third is to work around your energy levels. So I'm going to dig deeper into each of these. There's a lot of information on this particular tip. First, consistent exercise. Daily exercise is ideal, but according to an article from mindbodygreen.com, the general consensus is that a multitude of beneficial and chronic changes for a healthier brain and mind can happen if you exercise for an hour a day, 3 days a week. There are a lot of benefits to getting consistent exercise. One is that it relieves depression and helps manage anxiety. This is a direct quote, by the way, from an article on cnet.com. You've probably heard that exercise increases endorphins, but it also increases many more brain chemicals that make you feel happy. When you exercise, it increases endorphins, dopamine, adrenaline, and endocannabinoid. These are all brain chemicals associated with feeling happy, confident, capable, less anxiety and stress, and even less physical pain. Another benefit of consistent exercise comes from the Mayo Clinic, and it shows how exercise reduces stress and anxious or nervous energy. It also reduces feelings of loneliness and isolation. That again comes from CNET. When you get your heart rate up, when you use your body, when you engage your muscles, it changes your brain chemistry in a way that makes it easier to connect with others and bond and to trust other people. There are also benefits to group exercise. They increase your sense of connection and provide a sense of belonging. Because of the way exercise alters our brain chemistry and outlook, you start to feel a true sense of connection with the people that you're moving with. It really does give us a sense of belonging. That is another direct quote from the CNET article, which I will link to. And lastly, exercise also helps regulate your sleep. That comes from Johns Hopkins. Moderate aerobic exercise increases the amount of deep sleep you get, where the brain and body have a chance to rejuvenate. Exercise can also help to stabilize your mood and decompress the mind. One tip comes from the National Health Service in the UK. It says that you can get at least some of these benefits by going for a quick walk, even if that's just as little as 10 minutes a day. So, I know we all come with a lot of excuses for not exercising, but it's amazing for you. It's amazing for your body, for your brain, for your relationships, for literally every facet of your life. So, prioritize that and do that consistently. I should have put this as number one, but I didn't for some reason. That's probably the keystone habit here to increasing your happiness. All right, next, under managing your physical and emotional energy is to get sufficient sleep, both quality and quantity, and don't snooze. This comes from an article on the Huffington Post, which outlines all the ways that sleep contributes to one's happiness and emotional well-being. Well, there's two main takeaways here for me. One is that quality sleep helps regulate emotions. Basically, if you don't feel well rested, you can more easily become cranky and moody. I think we all know that from personal experience. And as far as snoozing, it's really bad for your brain, for your body, just everything. And it can make you feel groggy and disoriented for hours. I am a recovered snoozer. I broke that habit back in 2018, and it's one of my proudest and biggest accomplishments because I was a lifelong snoozer. I noticed a huge difference in mental clarity. It's just important to me. I want to protect my brain. I want to give my body the best chance. I really care about my intellect, my mental facilities, my demeanor, my mood. I want to make sure that I'm showing up as my best. And if one thing I can do to help that is to stop snoozing and just get up when the alarm goes off, then I'm going to do it. It is possible. I promise you can do it too. There's a lot of research on this, and honestly, some of it is mixed. Some people have the school of thought that snoozing, at least when done a certain way, can actually enhance your mood, give you a little bit more rest. But overall, I think research points to how bad it is for your brain and how much better you are if you just get up directly with your alarm. So one quote that I found is from a website called megnadesani.com. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This person is a doctor and specializes in sleep. So I trust this resource. And she says, when we repeatedly drift in and out of sleep, our bodies never get the chance to fully rest and recharge. And this can lead to all sorts of problems, both mental and physical. People who frequently hit snooze are more likely to suffer from anxiety and depression. They're also more likely to be overweight, have trouble concentrating, and report lower levels of satisfaction with their lives. They are also more likely to suffer from headaches, neck pain, and fatigue. Some tips here for better sleep are to adjust the light settings on your devices so they enter night shift after sunset, because otherwise the blue light they emit will disrupt your body clock. You should also stop using screens about an hour before bedtime to give your brain and body a chance to wind down. You can turn on some mellow music and journal or read. It's also recommended that you sleep in a bed instead of on a chair or in a couch. In a couch, on a couch. Sleep quality is also improved if you get into a bed that is made rather than unmade. There's an article on verywellmind.com which says, it's a way to begin the morning in an organized manner and with a clean slate that helps to make the most of your day. Just as a straightened bed seems to be a powerful signal, for some at least, that it's time to start your day, a made bed may also be more pleasant to slip into at bedtime. Another recommendation is to sleep in pajamas instead of your clothes. That helps you regulate your body temperature, among other things. And lastly, block out all sources of light and sound. You can wear a sleep mask and earplugs if you need to. I do, personally, especially when I'm in a hotel room on a layover. It's remarkable the difference that makes in the quality of sleep that I get. Okay, and the third, yes, we're still on the second point here. We're on like 2C now. Work around your energy levels. Schedule tasks that require strong mental focus during your peak hours and do busy work during your afternoon slump. This is a tip from episode 399 of the How to Be Awesome at Your Job podcast, which is called Maximizing Your Mental Energy. By the way, I highly recommend that show. I've been listening for years and they have a wealth of insights that apply across multiple fields, different positions, various industries. There's something for everyone. Another tip is to do creative tasks when you're a little bit tired, since the brain is more creative when it's drowsy. There is an article I read years ago that unfortunately I can no longer link to. It's by Tanner Christensen, and he had a blog called Creative Something. I looked that up, but the blog is no longer active. I do have a link to his website though, and I remember him saying that if you are not currently drowsy and you need to be creative, you could drink 2 beers to replicate the effects on the brain. I remember being like, ooh, it's an excuse to drink. I'll take it. Don't do that on the clock though. Okay, schedule tasks in blocks of 90 minutes to 2 hours because your ability to focus maxes out after 2 hours of attention. That comes from an article on Fast Company called Why You Need to Unplug Every 90 Minutes. And it also recommends that you recover with a break of 15 to 20 minutes after each block. Make sure those breaks are activities that allow you to mentally reboot, like walks, stretches, breathing, hydrating, or drinking some coffee or tea, maybe socializing a little bit, or take a nap. That's my last tip here, take a nap to reset. That comes from episode 532 of How to Be Awesome at Your Job, which is titled Achieving More Through Smart Energy Management. You can set a timer for 30 minutes total to ensure that you get at least 10 minutes of rest. And afterward, a great way to re-energize is by going for a walk. One tip is to spend a week or two tracking your energy levels for every hour of the day. Yes, it's very detailed and very thorough, but it's a good investment on your time. Note what tasks you're working on during those times and whether they increase or decrease your energy or if they have no effect. And then once you see that data, you can optimize your daily schedule, your daily routine. You can put tasks that give you energy during the times of day when you really need to keep going. Okay, number 3 on the list of 14 research-backed ways to improve your happiness is recite positive affirmations. This one is probably going to be off-putting for some people because I know it feels strange and the idea of it is strange, but there is science behind it. It also might sound silly to describe affirmations specifically as positive, but we give ourselves negative affirmations all the time. We might say, I'm so lazy, I'm not good enough at this, I'm overweight, whatever. Whatever beliefs you affirm about yourself, positive or negative, will show up in your life somehow due to how those thoughts affect your subconscious. By repeating a belief, you are affirming it, and that research comes from reorigin.com. So make it positive. An article from positivepsychology.com outlines the science behind positive affirmations. It says, incorporating affirmations into your routine enhances motivation, reduces stress, and supports overall well-being by promoting a healthier self-image. An adaptive, broad sense of self makes us more resilient to difficulties when they arise. According to that article, these are some ways positive affirmations contribute to happiness. They decrease stress, they lower rumination, they increase optimism, they help us perceive threatening messages with less resistance, including things like interventions, and they make us less likely to dismiss harmful health messages. The practice of writing or reciting positive affirmations will feel weird at first because you'll be saying things that you don't actually believe yet, but the whole point is to keep saying them every day until they feel natural. I have some tips here if you'd like to get started. First, do a quick search for affirmations about whatever topic you're struggling with or that you want to improve. For example, there are a lot about anxiety and depression, compassion, even finance, basically anything. When you write your affirmations, be sure to create them in the present tense. because one set in the future will feel perpetually out of grasp. You should also write your affirmations by hand. That comes from the National Library of Medicine. It's even better if it's repeated a few times in a sitting. That gives you a stronger conceptual understanding of the content. Some people also suggest that you should say your affirmations aloud while looking at your reflection. This is also called mirror work. There's an article on elevate.com which says this is a form of self-reflection that encourages personal growth, self-love, and emotional healing. And lastly, you might want to repeat your affirmations a few times a day for maximum effect. The fourth method for increasing your happiness is act like a happy person. Smile and sing. Smiling creates a chemical reaction in the brain which produces dopamine and serotonin. So why is that important? Why do dopamine and serotonin matter? Well, we already went over dopamine being a feel-good chemical, but this article from NBC provides this explanation from one neurologist. Dopamine increases our feelings of happiness. Serotonin release is associated with reduced stress. Low levels of serotonin are associated with depression and aggression. Low levels of dopamine are also associated with depression. So those chemicals, those neurotransmitters are critical for your happiness, and basically one way to stimulate them if you're not getting them from any other source is to smile. Even if that smile is forced, it still produces those chemicals. The other tip here for singing, that comes from an article on the Huffington Post called 10 Reasons to Make Singing Your Happiness Drug. Singing elevates your mood in these ways. It activates the right temporal lobe of the brain, releasing endorphins such as oxytocin, which results in heightened states of pleasure, bliss, bonding, and love. These chemicals also enhance neuroplasticity of our brains, boost our immune system, fight illness, depression, and strokes, and help us handle pain better. All of that from singing. Singing also activates the pleasure center of the brain, it oxygenates the blood, and it reduces anxiety through the deep breathing required. Some tips here: do something that makes you smile. Watch a funny or feel-good movie, look at photos from a fun time in your life, or put on a show that makes you laugh. You could also turn on some music you enjoy singing along with. Effects are enhanced when singing with a group. Since we're talking about music and how it can affect your happiness, I wanted to mention a couple other things. One is, remember from the last episode, the 5 happiest songs according to science, I made a playlist of all those songs. I will link to that in the show notes, or if you're listening on Spotify, that's going to be in the related listens. Those are all shown to stimulate the production of dopamine in the brain, which is why they're considered the happiest songs. So again, you might want to give that a listen. And then a non-scientific way to increase your happiness through music is listen to your song. Listen to your happy song, the one that reminds you of a happy memory. Maybe you can replay that memory. Don't get stuck in it like I did. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to episode 1 or episode 10. Episode 1 is called The Obsession That Started It All, and episode 10 is called Is Music Holding You Back or Propelling You Forward? I will also link to those if you'd like to check them out. Lastly, I also wanted to say I'm putting together a playlist of songs to help people emotionally recharge. So interpret that however you want to, but what I'm going for is music that you listen to when you're struggling or when you're exhausted or overwhelmed, burnt out, etc. Encouraging, uplifting music that helps you find the energy to keep going. Whatever recommendations you have for me on a playlist like that, you can email hello@happinesssoundtrack.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at happinesssoundtrack. And thank you in advance. I look forward to hearing what you got. The 5th tip here for improving your happiness is invest in your relationships. Good relationships keep us healthier and happier. This is from a book called The Good Life by Drs. Waldinger and Schultz, and that's about the Harvard study of adult development. In case you're not familiar with that study, that followed people over the course of about 80 years, from very early in their childhood through their death. It measured various data points about their lives, and apparently one thing it discovered about people's happiness was that it was strongly correlated with having strong relationships. People in satisfying relationships tend to live longer and have fewer health problems. That research, again, comes from Harvard. Healthy relationships can increase life satisfaction and encourage or support healthy behavior, while unhealthy or toxic relationships can worsen your health by encouraging unhealthy habits, elevating stress, and increasing the likelihood of depression and anxiety. That research comes from the National Library of Medicine. There's an article on thriveglobal.com that has a lot of additional research on this topic, and it says lack of attachments is linked to a variety of ill effects on health, adjustment, and well-being, but a bad relationship is worse than being alone. So the quality of your connections counts at least as much as the number of social ties you have. Even if you have fewer strong relationships in your life, if they are in good health, if they're healthy and happy relationships, then they will help you feel healthier and happier. That comes from the World Happiness Report. There's also evidence that social support reduces our biological stress response. That again comes from the National Library of Medicine. And researchers also note that setting socially focused, meaningful goals, such as endeavors that contribute to others, leads to more sustainable well-being than purely self-focused goals. That might be goals for volunteering or goals for starting a meetup group or some kind of social club. Anything related to developing and cultivating relationships with other people can contribute to your happiness in a deeper way than something that's just about you and your individual goals. So the sixth method is to do kind things for other people. Research shows that random acts of kindness, anything from helping a stranger, giving a compliment, or quietly doing something nice, do more than feel good in the moment. Kindness actually lights up our brain's reward centers, flooding us with dopamine and serotonin, those same feel-good chemicals that fuel emotional well-being. So doing something kind for someone else isn't just a feel-good gesture. It literally lowers your stress, strengthens your immune system, and reduces anxiety and depression. Even something as simple as smiling at a stranger or holding the door open for someone can shift our focus from our own desires to something deeper and more fulfilling. When we surprise someone with generosity, like helping a stranger cross the street, it's powerful. It cultivates trust, joy, and emotional payoff for both sides. That research comes from Psychology Today, by the way. And the article is called Why Random Acts of Kindness Matter to Your Well-Being. The seventh tip is to practice deliberate gratitude. You've probably heard a lot of research about how good gratitude is for you, so I'm going to share some more here. This article comes from positivepsychology.com, and it's called The Neuroscience of Gratitude and Effects on the Brain. Neuroscience shows that gratitude lights up our brain's reward and emotional regulation systems. Studies reveal that a regular gratitude practice rewires your brain, enhancing resilience, boosting contentment, and deepening connections. Even small practices like listing a few things you're thankful for every day or every week can reshape your brain and your life. Here's a direct quote from that article. The neuroscience of gratitude shows it activates brain regions associated with reward, enhancing feelings of contentment and emotional well-being. So expressing gratitude stimulates the brain's dopamine and serotonin pathways, creating genuine, positive emotional feedback, making gratitude feel good and reinforcing that habit. Another direct quote is, regular practice of gratitude can lead to long-term positive changes in the brain, supporting mental health and resilience. So consistent gratitude isn't just nice, it's neuroplastic. It strengthens neural circuits related to emotional regulation, empathy, and positivity, which helps build daily resilience. Gratitude strengthens social ties by fostering appreciation and connection, and stronger relationships provide emotional support, and as we just heard, they enrich your overall well-being. Personally, I have a daily gratitude practice. I've been doing this every day for years now. I write down 3 things I'm grateful for or 3 things that went well every night. And it's really, I would say, powerful. It helps you tune in because I know I have to write those things every night. So it helps me notice more good things around me. It helps me appreciate little things. Like today, one of the things I'm going to be grateful for is the fact that I had an amazing cup of coffee. I got some coffee beans yesterday that are just really hitting the spot. So, because I really love coffee, that's something I'm grateful for. You may or may not be a journal person, but you could start writing down those things in a note on your phone, or you could keep a little notebook right by your bedside and just, as you're laying down, write down one thing from this day. One good thing about today, one thing you're grateful for, one thing that went well, something like that to cultivate that daily gratitude practice. It will really do wonders for your sense of hope, happiness, optimism, everything. And I also just wanted to say, for everyone who has ever written in the Happiness Soundtrack Journal, I have been grateful for you at the end of the day. Every single person. I remember. I count every entry at the end of the day. I record a little voice note about that interaction and the memory. I wasn't doing the voice notes at the very beginning of the project, so the first month and a half is a little bit blurry, but every single day I write you guys in my gratitude list, and I wanted you to know that. Okay, so we're halfway through the list of 14 scientific strategies to improve your happiness. I want to say thanks for listening. I hope you're enjoying these so far. And if you want to leave a review about this episode or about the whole podcast, you can do that on Apple or Spotify. If you're really enjoying the Happiness Soundtrack, then leaving a positive review will help other people find the show and want to start listening to it. And if there's something I can do to improve, then I would love for you to let me know what that is. And with all of that being said, let's jump right back into number 8. That is to incorporate meditation and practice mindfulness. I can't tell you how much meditation helps from a personal perspective because I have never been able to keep the habit. But I do have research here that shows how well it helps you. In an article from Inc.com about how to be happier, one strategy is to develop a consistent meditation practice. They cite research from Massachusetts General Hospital, which says, after completing the meditation course, parts of the 16 participants' brains associated with compassion and self-awareness grew, and parts associated with stress shrank. Studies show that in the minutes right after meditating, we experience feelings of calm and contentment, as well as heightened awareness and empathy. And research even shows that regular meditation can permanently rewire the brain to raise levels of happiness. There's an article from ABC News called Rewiring Your Brain for Happiness, and it shares more about how meditation changes the brain. Stress points will shrink over time, which reduces your emotional edge and improves calmness. Increased self-awareness and compassion support healthier emotional regulation and social connection. Quieter mental chatter means fewer intrusive thoughts and better focus. And ongoing brain rewiring strengthens resilience, offering better emotional responses long after meditation ends. So that's about meditation. In an article about mindfulness from Psychology Today, we learn how adopting a habit of mindfulness can also enhance one's happiness. That article is called The Surprising Reason Mindfulness Makes You Happier. And it says mindfulness increases positive emotions like joy and compassion. Attention and focus on the present moment deepen awareness and emotional clarity. And an open, accepting attitude reduces stress and resistance. So basically, by slowing down and tuning into your body, emotions, or surroundings without judgment, you give yourself permission to fully feel and release. And that openness leads to deeper well-being. So mindfulness for me, let's go back to that cup of coffee, that would be really savoring the flavor and thinking, what do I like about this? What do I enjoy about this moment? It's not just the coffee, it's also the fact that I had time to brew my own coffee today. I don't get to do that when I'm traveling. It's also about the fact that I was able to sleep in. I feel well rested, and I can't say that often. More about gratitude and more about mindfulness. I think they're very strongly correlated. We're on number 9 now. Do work that gives you meaning and delight. This comes from an episode of the podcast called A New Way of Being, and the episode is called Happiness by Design with Paul Dolan. He's an author, and in his book called Happiness by Design, he lays out a simple but powerful idea. Real happiness comes from the intersection of pleasure and purpose. He argues that true joy isn't just a mindset, it's action. So doing work that delights you and matters to others isn't just a nice to have, it is the formula for happiness. When you're energized by what you do and feel like you're contributing to something worthwhile, happiness will flow naturally. We may or may not always have control over the type of career that we go into. So doing work that gives you meaning and delight could look different for everyone. It might not be your day job or your 9 to 5. That could be something that you prioritize outside of work. Maybe you don't feel a sense of meaning and purpose in your main source of income, but you do dedicate time to something outside of that. And if you don't, perhaps you should. Perhaps you want to consider that. So I would recommend listening to that episode or reading that book for more ideas. Number 10, make fun a priority. This one makes me smile because this is like one of the funnest ones on here besides singing. Give yourself time to do the things that have no purpose other than bringing you joy. There's evidence here from Psychology Today that making something with your hands is really fun and meaningful. So drawing, painting, woodworking, cooking, baking, embroidery, beadwork, gardening, basically anything where you are creating something or caring for something with your hands. In an article from Psychology Today, we learned that creating or tending things by hand enhances mental health and makes us happy. Making things promotes psychological well-being. When we make, repair, or create things, we feel vital and effective. It isn't as much about reaching one's potential as doing something interesting. Less about ambition and more about living. When we are dissolved in a deeply absorbing task, we lose self-consciousness and pass the time in a contented state. So that last part there is honestly kind of talking about flow state, but I think it's really interesting that just creating something, you find a large sense of meaning in that. If you're sounding out music and you discover like what chords to hit, it's not just the vibration and the resonance and the frequency that sounds good. It's that act of working at it and figuring it out that feels good. Drawing something and starting with a blank piece of paper and ending with something beautiful. No one's ever made that before, but you just created it out of nothing. That feels rewarding. Anything like that. Or gardening, if you're planting something and you have a little seed and you put it in the soil and you water it and you put it in the right amount of light every day for months on end, and then you see it sprout and then you see it blossom. That has to be incredibly rewarding as well. So make things like that a priority. Another fun thing, you're going to love this one, eat foods that stimulate dopamine. There are healthy foods that stimulate dopamine, so it doesn't have to be about indulging, but I will mention that. Some foods that stimulate dopamine are apples, dark chocolate, avocados, peanuts, or my favorite, bananas. Of course, Jana likes bananas. You could also produce the same effect by indulging in a meal or a dessert that you enjoy. Enhance those effects by incorporating practices for mindfulness while you do so. So again, like I was explaining with my coffee earlier, while you're enjoying those foods, think about what it is you enjoy about them. Realistically, you're only going to remember the first bite, the last bite, and maybe like one in the middle. I mean, you only need those 3 bites. You're not going to remember every single bite, but you can certainly enjoy every bite. And this ties into the next point. Number 11 on our list of 14 scientific strategies to increase your happiness is to anticipate and reflect. This insight comes from Gretchen Rubin. She is an author and a podcaster known for her work about happiness. She says, to feel happy, it is not enough to have an absence of bad feelings. You have to have a source of good feelings as well. Pleasant anticipation is an important source of happiness. Having something to look forward to makes you feel good and may also give an atmosphere of growth to your life because the future seems bright. Rubin states that the 4 stages of happiness around an event are anticipation, savoring the moment, like we just said, expressing your excitement or sharing the experience with others, and then reflecting afterwards, taking the time to record and relive the moment later. The time we spend anticipating and being excited about something, as well as reflecting on it later, lasts much longer than the moment itself. But those are critical parts of the whole process. Enjoy the planning and relish the experience when it does arrive, but also record it so you can think back on it later. Some ways you can put this into action would be to plan a trip or an event, Plan a meal you really enjoy, then make it yourself or with someone you care about. Compile a reading list of books that you're really looking forward to, and then journal about your experiences later. Why did they mean so much to you? For example, if you're making a meal, that would require researching, writing down an ingredients list, going to the store, finding those things, possibly doing that with someone who you care about, coming home, putting all the ingredients together, that act of making it together, anticipating it together, and then getting to enjoy and savor it together. You can take pictures throughout the process, take pictures of you making it together, take pictures of the full final meal and how you plate the meal. I don't know, I'm not a cook, but I imagine that this might be something enjoyable. And then later, look back on the pictures together. Talk about how much you enjoyed that meal. What did you enjoy about it? Was it even the food, or was it just the act of doing that together? So that is anticipate and reflect. Number 12, spend time out in nature. A lot of research here. The first article comes from Psychology Today. It's called Your Heart and Brain on Nature. This says being in nature has a profound impact on our brains and our behavior, helping us to reduce anxiety, brooding, and stress, and increase our attention capacity, creativity, and our ability to connect with other people. An article from Business Insider also reveals that awe-inspiring outdoor experiences, such as hiking in a valley or stargazing, help reduce stress and increase life satisfaction. In one study, participants who took a 90-minute walk in nature reported experiencing fewer negative thoughts afterward compared to those who walked in urban areas. Brain scans also revealed reduced activity in a region that may play a key role in some mood disorders and has been linked with patterns of negative thought. And that effect was not seen in the group that went on the urban walks. We also know from an article by Healthline that sunlight stimulates the production of serotonin and dopamine, which are hormones that contribute to mood. We've already talked about those at several points in this episode. There's also research from the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley, which found that bacteria in soil produces similar effects as antidepressant drugs, such as releasing serotonin. And as we mentioned earlier, low levels of serotonin cause depression. So if you're going to go for your 10-minute walk, might want to do that in a park, on a trail, somewhere that allows you to enjoy some sunlight, some greenery, witness awe of nature. That's a way to really maximize those effects. Number 13, work with your strengths. According to episode 34 of the Science of Happiness podcast, which is called Finding Your Strengths, working on your strengths increases well-being and feelings of happiness and reduces symptoms of depression. In that episode, the guest Cindy Wilson and the host discuss firsthand how intentionally focusing on and applying personal strengths rather than ruminating on weaknesses significantly improved well-being. So I recommend you go listen to that episode for full details, but a couple tips here are to list your strengths, rank them from strongest to weakest, and then spend 1 week using those top strengths in a new way, or focus on improving your weaker ones. Okay, the last tip, number 14, spend more on experiences than on possessions. This comes from an article by Psychology Today called Want More in the Moment Happiness, Buy Experiences, Not Stuff. For long-lasting happiness, you should invest your money in moments and experiences more than on material objects. In that article, one experiment found that people derive more satisfaction from experiential purchases like travel, entertainment, outdoor activities, and dining out than they do on material purchases like clothing, jewelry, furniture, gadgets. And that goes for prospect and retrospect. So even when thinking about buying those things and then reflecting on those purchases later, people found more happiness and satisfaction from experiences than material things. Buying things does bring a more immediate rush of satisfaction, but it also fades more quickly since you acclimate to a higher level of happiness. So investing in something that will give you memories provides a deeper and more intense sense of satisfaction and happiness. That was a lot. Let me run through that list again once more, just so you can hear it all at once and make sure you don't forget any of those tips. Number 1, program happy moments into your day. Number 2, manage your physical and emotional energy. Number 3, recite positive affirmations. Number 4, act like a happy person, smile and sing. Number 5, invest in your relationships. Number 6, do kind things for other people. Number 7, practice deliberate gratitude. Number 8, incorporate meditation and practice mindfulness. Number 9, do work that gives you meaning and delight. Number 10, make fun a priority. Number 11, anticipate and reflect. Number 12, spend time out in nature. Number 13, work with your strengths. And number 14, spend more on experiences than on possessions. I really appreciate you listening, and I would love to hear what you thought of this episode. This is a really different subject than we've talked about here previously. It was a very different type of writing, I'll tell you that. And while I really hope you enjoyed it, I kind of hope you don't want too much more of it, because this was a really difficult thing for me to write. Like, I agonized over this. It's a very different type of writing. Rather than discussing emotional experiences and finding reflecting back on experiences I've been through, finding some kind of message and a through line and figuring out how to craft a story around that, that's a lot more interesting and engaging to me. And I guess that's the type of challenge that I'm more up for. Whereas this was all research, and it was, an equal amount of work, but it felt like a lot more work. So let me know what you thought of this. Please be honest. If you want more stuff like this, by all means, let me know and I'll make it happen. As far as what we've discussed today, what is something you do that enhances your mood, whether or not there's any science behind it? Feel free to share your thoughts with me. There are a few ways to do so. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, you can drop a comment, or if you're on Instagram, you can connect with me at Happiness Soundtrack and comment on the post for this episode. Feel free to DM me about your song as well. I would love to hear your story. As for my stories, I share a new one every Monday, and next week I will share how I choose who to ask and some of the different ways I've done it. You can listen to all the stories on your favorite podcast platform, including YouTube, or you can read the blog at happinesssoundtrack.com. I hope this episode made you smile, and if you try any of these tips, I hope they are helpful for you. Thank you very much for your support. I'm glad you're having a good time here. Have a great week, and I'll be back next Monday with a song and a smile.